Hi, Jody Hardesty here with Empowered Heart Connections. It's so hard to figure out what you really want in a relationship. And many of us tend to kind of settle for the first person who comes along, or somebody who just shows us interest, or somebody who's really cute. But there's a lot more to a relationship than those qualifications, or lack of qualifications, I should say. Sometimes we can determine what we want by ruling out what we don't want. So many of us have had some not so great relationships in the past. I am included in that. And some of the things you can evaluate are, what was it about that past relationship or those past relationships that made me feel bad? Were they dishonest? Did they not share the same value system as I did? Were they self-absorbed? What was it that you were missing? I think it often helps if you look at those qualities or lack of qualities to help you evaluate what is important to you in a relationship. Obviously, attraction is important, but what I found is that attraction can actually grow with time if you have the compatibility. If you're compatible in areas like your value system. And many people have a hard time really evaluating what that means. What is a value system? And there's many components that are included in a value system. So for one, the value of ethics and morals. What are your moral standards? If you find a wallet on the street, what are you going to do? Are you going to turn it in? Are you going to take the money and run? How does your moral compass point? And is your future partner also going to share those moral perspectives? Religion is another topic that is really important, that people must have some sort of commonality in order to have a similar value system in that area. Finances is another topic. Is the person that you're potentially going to be involved with, are they all about materialistic things? Are they able to save money? Is that a value that you share? And are you thousands of dollars in debt? Is your future partner going to be okay with that? Are you okay if they're thousands of dollars in debt? There's many topics that can affect the way your relationship goes. And those are some of the topics that are the most conflictual in relationships. Money, right? And children, religion. A lot of those topics come up in conflict. That's another topic. Children. Do you want to have children? How many children do you want to have? Does your future partner feel the same way? Do you want to stay at home? Do you want to work? Do you want to have childcare? What are some parenting techniques? There's many aspects of parenting, especially if you're going to have potentially a blended family. Many people aren't aware of all the complications that are involved if you're going to date someone who already has children, or if you already have children. These are some huge topics that need to be evaluated and looked into in order to understand what the potential consequences and challenges might be from having a blended family. So that might be something that you put on your list to rule in or rule out, is that if you're comfortable having somebody who already has children, or if you already have children, that's something to be aware of. And you're going to have to be informing your future partner of that, or they're going to have to be really clear with you. The other challenge that comes with that, with blended families, is there's other parents involved. And what does that look like? And what does that need to look like if you're going to be involved in that? Like I said, physical appearance is important to many of us, but we also need to be open-minded to seeing if we can grow that attraction with someone over time. That physical attraction is nice to have at first, but again, if you have some sort of physical attraction and you can expand on that, developing that compatibility in your value systems, are making sure they are compatible, is really going to enhance that desire and that attraction over time. Some of the other important issues are careers, right? Are you fully devoted to working full time? Are you an 8 to 5 kind of person? And do you want that to be the same value that your partner shares? What if they do work part-time? What if they're more casual with their career? What if they don't have a long-term goal for their career? Or maybe they're hopping from job to job. Those are issues that can come up in conflict in relationships later on. Education. Does the person that you want to be with, are they highly educated? Are you educated? Do you want to share that? Do you have it in common? Do you have an intellectual compatibility? Are you able to have long-term conversations? Are you able to share content and discuss content in a respectful and interesting way? These are the things that maintain long-term relationships. Really being able to share time together and enjoy and be able to stimulate intellectual conversation in each other can really go a long way. Along with that is humor, right? So maybe they're stimulating you intellectually, but you just don't click when it comes to humor. And humor can be really healing in relationships. Humor can really bring people together. So do you share the same sense of humor? Are you a morbid sense of humor kind of person? Are you tolerant of that? Is that something that maybe would be something that would rule out a future partner? How generous are you? Are you a giver? Are you a taker? Do you want your partner to be a giver or a taker? These are qualities that can balance each other out depending on the extreme of the nature, right? Extreme people pleasers are probably not going to do well with an extreme taker. And that extreme people pleasing might need some work before the person gets into a relationship anyways. But the level of giving and taking is something that needs to be kind of balanced. And sometimes you can be givers in one area and not in another. So maybe you're really good at cleaning house, but you're not so great at having emotional conversations. So some of those things can grow with time. If you're with a partner, your future partner, who is really good at having emotional conversation, but maybe not so great at cleaning house, you guys could probably work to balance each other out. But those are some issues that need explored before really committing to that relationship, is how much can you balance each other out and how contrasting are you? Right? Opposites can attract to some degree, but you need to have the foundation that's the same. Right? When my husband and I met, we were very different in many ways. But again, our value system was the same. We both felt like being kind was a huge factor. We both wanted to be parents. We both felt like being loving and kind was essential. We both have a strong moral compass. We both want to do the right thing. We both have a financial perspective that's the same. We have a spiritual perspective that's the same. So even though we had some difference in opinions and difference in perspectives, in many areas, we were able to help each other grow and learn because of our differences, rather than having those split us apart. Politics. There's another area, which I find that many couples who have extreme opposition really can struggle, especially when we have kind of some volatile elections like we have been having. But those can also help you grow if you're open to discussion. So having the ability to be open-minded is a huge factor on whether a relationship is going to be compatible or not. And so finding that in your partner might be really important. If they're really kind of rigid and have a hard time being flexible, that's going to be difficult to have challenging conversations. It's going to be difficult to be open to debate. Politics. There's another area, which I find that many couples who have extreme opposition really can struggle, especially when we have kind of some volatile elections like we have been having. But those can also help you grow if you're open to discussion. So having the ability to be open-minded is a huge factor on whether a relationship is going to be compatible or not. And so finding that in your partner might be really important. If they're really kind of rigid and have a hard time being flexible, that's going to be difficult to have challenging conversations. It's going to be difficult to be open to debate. Many other topics can be frustrating. Justice, your sense of justice. So what is your sense of justice? Are you, when you see things happening in the news that is one way or one side or the other, are you particularly motivated by that? Does that impact you very strongly? And how does your future partner behave similarly or differently? So these are all topics that can be really important. The other one is individuality. How comfortable comfortable are you being alone? How comfortable is your partner being alone? Do you like spending a lot of time together and he or she doesn't? Then that really needs to be considered, is how are you going to determine how much time you spend together, how much intimacy you have, and are you compatible on that level? And if you're not, are you both willing to grow and expand and maybe stretch, right? So if one person is totally independent, like doesn't like a lot of time together, but is willing to kind of adjust and get used to that, then that's possibly an area of growth. That's another option, is are you both willing to grow and learn? There is no compatible relationships where one or the other or both is not willing to grow and learn and expand their thinking and be able to improve their emotional wellness, their intellectual wellness, right? We all need to be open to growing and changing and really learning how to connect in a positive way, even when we disagree. This is a difficult subject for a lot of people, is how do we disagree in a loving way? And that's another aspect of the potential partner that you have, is are they, when they do disagree with you, are they doing it respectfully? Are they aggressive? Are they hurting your feelings? And if they are you able to say, hey, you're really a lot of fun and I like you in a lot of ways, but here's an issue that I'm struggling with. Whenever you disagree with me, it feels kind of like an attack. Can you work on phrasing things differently? That's another topic, is communication issues. How can you improve your communication skills? And is your future partner able to communicate with you in a way that you're able to hear? And if not, again, can you expand and grow that? Or is it unlikely that you're going to be able to shift out of that kind of stuck perspective? Sexuality. What kind of intimacy are you guys willing to explore? Are you open to having those conversations? And are you open to having conversations that can really enlighten you to know what that's going to look like with each other? Well, those are important conversations. Obviously, a lot of these conversations need to be a little later on in the dating experience. Maybe not addressed all of these in the first date, but these are topics that need to be evaluated. And there are many topics that people often overlook and end up getting kind of stuck in a relationship where they're not compatible because they haven't explored these issues. The other issue is power. What is a power dynamic in your relationship? Are you comfortable with the differential of power that you have? So, for example, sometimes power in relationships can mean like who stays home, right? If you're wanting to have one of you stay home with the kids, what does that look like? And what does that mean in your family dynamic? What does that power differential look like? Does that mean that you're equals because one is taking on the home responsibilities and the other is taking on the financial responsibilities? And then what does that look like as far as distribution of responsibilities in the house? So there are many aspects that power can include. And are you able to feel equal enough in a relationship to be able to say what your needs are and to be addressing needs without feeling intimidated or threatened? That power in relationships is really being able to be vulnerable, that both of you are able to be vulnerable and tender and express yourself in a way that is effective. That's one of the aspects of having power. And are you comfortable together? You need to make sure that no matter how you are communicating and what conversations you're having, that you're comfortable really connecting on a deep level and you feel safe and secure. And if the person you're potentially dating you don't feel safe and secure with, and you're not able to work through that, that can be one of those really big red flags. Another aspect is family and heritage. Right? Do you share a similar background? Are you different? Is that okay? What does that look like when it comes to family traditions and getting together with family and your identity? So exploring what that looks like and which ways you guys are willing to be flexible and which ways you're unable to be flexible. And family dynamic, in general, is the family that you are that you've come from, your family that you grew up with? Are you wanting them to be involved in your life frequently? And does your partner on board with that? Are both of you on the same page with, we want to have our families integrated into our lives in a frequent way or an infrequent way? Does that mean, his parents come over and stay with you frequently? Are you okay with that? Do you know them? How well do you know them? And do you have a relationship with them? And are you willing to be open to them and be open to joining each other's families? Are you also able to recognize each other's abilities and accomplishments? Are you willing to acknowledge that maybe he's better at something than you are in a certain area, or vice versa? Giving each other acknowledgement and recognition can be hugely important. And I've seen many couples who have gone to a lot of conflict because one or the other is unable to validate or recognize the other person for their accomplishments. So, for example, going back to the staying at home, is the future partner able to recognize that that is a valuable role, that is really an important asset that you are bringing to the house? And vice versa. Is the other person able to recognize that bringing in a financial contribution is valuable and an asset to the relationship in the household? So recognizing each other's compliments, recognizing each other's strengths. Are you able to acknowledge and appreciate each other's strengths, even if they're different? Even if maybe one of you, like I said, is better at one area than another, that the importance of recognizing that you are appreciative and acknowledging each other's strengths is very valuable in a relationship and can really go a long way to really growing as a couple. The other topic is pleasures. What type of pleasures do you guys share, or enjoyments, activities that you enjoy? Is one of you an avid bowler and the other one hates bowling? And is that okay? Is there enough time for you guys to do separate activities and enough commonalities with things you enjoy that you're able to find connection on those areas? Or is one person an avid hunter and you're really opposed to that? That these pleasures or enjoyable activities that people do need to have some sort of commonality. And even if you have separate pleasures, can you find a commonality? Can you find a place where you do connect, where you can find things that you enjoy and appreciate about each other? All right, so all of these things are really important. There's many more topics that we could even go into because obviously humans are multifaceted, but it's important to particularly recognize the value systems of the future partners that you are going to be evaluating. It needs to be something that you share, particularly when it comes to that moral code. That moral code is the most essential that you have to be able to have in common. That do you feel the same way about your morals and your values? And that can really lead you to having a successful relationship. But again, ruling out those qualities that you've had in those exes, exes are just education, right? They are information for us to understand where we've come from, what we've learned from those relationships, and what we need moving forward so that we don't settle for Mr. Wrong when we're really looking for Mr. Right and Mr. Compatible. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this has been helpful, and I look forward to seeing you all soon.